Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 5th Annual Vibrant Living Expo and Culinary Showcase, and welcome to also all of you who are out there in computer land watching via the internet. We have thousands of people all over the world who have the opportunity to watch the Expo no matter where they are. Isn't that amazing? Technology is so fantastic that we can reach out to people wherever they are. And today I have an esteemed panel of women here who are intelligent, high-powered businesswomen who know how to balance their life, their family, and their business. And we're going to be talking to them about what their secrets are. What's the glue that holds them together and keeps them youthful and looking forward to the day every day? And I'm going to be asking for questions from you as well. So please do raise your hand if you have a question, and one of our assistants is going to walk around and hand you an index card so that you can write down your question, and then she'll bring them up to me so that I can ask the panelists. And if you have a particular person that you want to ask the question of, you can certainly write down their name, and that way it won't just be helter-skelter. We'll have a little bit of a plan here. I'm going to begin by asking each of them to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about what they do, what their life's work is, and also what is the glue that holds them together and keeps them young and looking forward to every day. And I'm going to start with myself. I'm the moderator, so I'm not going to be answering all those questions unless somebody specifically asks me one. But I'll just be fielding the questions to our other panelists here. Anna Marie Clement is not able to join us at the seminar, so at this weekend event, so she won't be with us on the panel. Her husband, Brian Clement, will be taking her talk, so you won't have to miss out on what it was that she was going to say, but you might make a note of that on your schedule. Another announcement is that tonight is the big night at Cotton Auditorium. Don't forget. Most of us are going to be there about 6:15, so we can just kind of get together and connect and eat pastries and just enjoy ourselves before the event begins at 7 o'clock. And so now, yes, I'll start by telling you I'm Sherry Soria, and I'm the founder and director of Living Light Culinary Arts Institute, and along with my husband, Dan Latterman, we own the center that you've seen and the inn as well. So we have 4 green businesses, and I've been a teacher of vegetarian culinary arts for almost 40 years, and I love what I do. I wake up every day feeling like I just can't wait to get out of bed and get started again. And in fact, a little bit later today, I think at 2 o'clock, I have a talk in this room about making your life extraordinary. I really feel I have an extraordinary life, and I'd love to share some of those ideas of how to make your life extraordinary at 2 o'clock today. So now I'm going to let's move over here to Happy Oasis and let her start by telling you a little bit about herself. We'll give about 2 minutes for that, if that's okay, and then that way the audience will have lots of time to ask their questions.
Thank you, Sherry. Good tidings, celestial terrestrials. My name is Happy Heavenly Oasis. I'm going by Heavenly a little bit more these days. And first of all, I'd like to express my profound gratitude to Sherry and Dan for putting this on. If we might give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
Really, a lot goes into these events, and she's been my mentor. We started our events the same year, 5 years ago, and it's been really interesting to see and to learn from Sherry. So the Raw Spirit Festival is the event that I put on, and that keeps me really busy because this year, since last year, we put on over 100 potluck celebrations, and I go to others festivals every weekend. Plus, we're putting on 4 events this year, and we're going overseas next year. And what is it as well that really, the one thing, I would say it's love. I wake up every morning and I think, what would I love to do today? What would the universe love for me to do today? And how can I start my day in the healthiest, most loving way? So this morning I woke up and I went swimming in the ocean. And then I ate some wild nasturtiums outside of this convenience store. It was very convenient because they weren't open. And I thought, that's convenient. Organic, fresh breakfast served at a convenience store at 7 a.m. at Casper Park. And it just gets better from there.
Okay, Victoria?
Hi, I'm Victoria Moran. And I'm so honored to be on this panel. When Sherry said, we'd also like to put you on the Ageless Women panel, it's like, oh gosh, that's a nice thing. So thank you very much. I see myself primarily as an author. I have written 10 books on well-being and spirituality. We have 3 of them here at the conference: The Love-Powered Diet, Creating a Charmed Life, and Living a Charmed Life. And I do believe that I have created one and am living it. To me, the glue that holds me together is the idea of the moreness of life. I've always been fascinated by what does it all mean? What's it about? I told people yesterday I had my first spiritual experience in my stroller when I looked up at the stars and thought, that's home. I'm here now, doing this is good, but it ain't home. And yet I have found through my years of living that the one thing that gets better all the time is this exploration. So the spirit of exploration really keeps me young, and as I look forward to the future, I know that it's going to be more magical and more enticing as I get really, really old and get closer to going back to wherever it is that I came from. There's a wonderful book by a man named Joel Goldsmith, and the title is A Parenthesis in Eternity. And that's how I really see this life. It's a parenthesis. I'm not going to be here forever, and yet it's a parenthesis in the most magnificent experience, and I want to live it that way every day.
It's beautiful. Thank you, Victoria. And here we have Elena Love.
Hi, everybody. Let's see, what do? I do a lot of things. I've been working with Sherry for 12 years. Since really the beginning of Living Light, and I love coming back here and being here. I'm an author. I have 2 authored recipe books and 3 DVDs, keep working on the next 2, and just keep myself very busy teaching classes, and I'm a mother of a 14-year-old. Let's see, what keeps me feeling vibrant and alive? It seems to change just depending on what's going on, but an appreciation for life, a general being present and appreciating life. And I just began training for a marathon in June, and it has turned me on like nothing else has. Using my body for what it was built for, running miles like that I never thought I could run, and seeing that even in my 40s I can become stronger and better and more amazing. It's just fantastic, and I'm loving it. Just running. So that's turning me on right now.
Thank you, Elena. Tamara.
Hi, I'm Tamara Campbell. I'm CEO of the company E3 Live. We harvest a wild-grown algae that grows in the Klamath Lake. It is used as a dietary supplement. We prefer to think of it as a food because it is a food containing all the vitamins, minerals, everything that our bodies need. Doing that is really a full-time job and has been a full-time job for a number of years, but my passion really is being a mom and spending time with my kids. We're homeschooling. We take road trips. We do shows. We do a number of things. So I think my secret to staying young is having young children around, appreciating, as Elena said, just totally appreciating life and what is here. When I run into negativity in my life, I stop and I say, how do I want to react? And I stop and think, does it matter 5 minutes from now? Will it matter 5 weeks from now or 5 years from now? And if the answer is no, it's not worth any energy. And that's really a big thing. I try to keep things from taking my energy in negative ways and try to think of just being positive every day, being a good role model for our children.
Thank you, Tamara. And before I get to you, Noemi, I'd like to see any questions that any of you may have. Has anybody written any index card questions yet? Raise your hand if you want an index card and you have a question for anybody on the panel. I have some assistants that are going to pass out those index cards. As soon as you get them in, you can bring them up to me. All right, Noemi.
Hi, I'm Noemi Shannon, also known as The Raw Gourmet. That's the name of my first book. As Sherry so nicely put it, the seminal something raw food book. Usually when people talk about my book, they just borrow someone else's words, but she made up a very nice paragraph, which I appreciate. And it is actually in its 10th year, and it's just still considered to be the best first raw book to get. It's been a really great feeling for me, and it kind of started me on my journey. When I wrote it, there weren't any. Since it came out, there's been about maybe 300. I recently wrote another book called Raw Food Celebrations. You can check them out at my booth. As the senior member of this panel, and usually as the senior member of every room I'm ever in, I'm probably, other than I think Victorious, I'm not sure, I think he's older than I am. Whether I like it or not, I think I might be one of, if not the oldest, other than Victorious, raw food, whatever, leader, writer, author. I just celebrated my 66th birthday. And somehow or other, that fact, which I forget very often, it's driving me on. I feel probably better than I did in my 40s. So things keep getting better and better. I've been raw for 22 years, or high raw for 22 years. I have several passions. One of them is, of course, raw food and bringing it to people and answering their questions. Even the same question for the 500th time somehow doesn't get old. And I could tick off the top 3, but you probably all asked them already. Anyways, I love dogs. Anyone who knows me pretty well knows I'm a little whacked out about my dog. I love my kids. I don't live near them. They're grown. I have a 46... Well, that's not good, actually. But I have a 46-year-old son, and I have a 40-year-old daughter. Now I don't even have kids in their 30s anymore. That's a killer. And I have an almost 2-year-old grandson. So I feel I have a very full and complete life, although it's a different life and a little kind of eccentric life, I think, other than many other people. But it works for me.
Thank you, Noemi. And I'm waiting for those questions to come up. And in the meantime, I'll go ahead and ask another question of all the panelists. I'd like to know, what's the most fun thing that you do? What do you look forward to doing? Something that's really fun. Just one thing, because we want to make sure that we have plenty of time for all the questions. We'll start with you, Happy.
That's tough, because my whole life is nothing but fun. It's like I set it up so that all day long, all I do is have fun. Sing. I can't just say one. I'm just going to say a really ballistically fast list. I sing, chant, pray, meditate, stretch, run, skip, canter, climb, dive, act like a kid, giggle, tickle, cuddle, write poetry, study, love to study, write, and compliment people and see the goodness in everybody and love everybody who's in front of me with all my heart.
Wow.
That's one thing. What's another? Oh, she didn't take a breath, so that works. Okay. Okay, Victoria.
Well, I'm going to pick 2. I am madly in love with where I live. I live in New York City, and it just suits me. There's something about finding the place that's home where you're just vibrating at the same rhythm, and it's heavenly. And the other thing is raw food. It's just every day is what can I do that's more delicious and more wonderful. I have a fairly new assistant who's a vegan who's interested in raw food, so I have somebody that I can try this out on. My husband's great. He eats whatever I fix, but he's not a foodie. My assistant is a foodie, and every day when she comes, we get to try out a new salad dressing or something. Now, I'm sure there are people in the world who are saying, if the best thing you can come up with in your life is salad dressing, I'd rather have a different life. Oh, no. Once you get it, the salad dressing can be sublime.
I would have to agree with that. I'm with you. Okay, Elena.
What do I like to do that's fun? Well, I really do enjoy what I do for a living. Sometimes I just laugh and pinch myself. Like, I get to talk with people all day long on the phone or email or be in person with people, and really just, I love interacting, and I love, like, consciously speaking with people about evolution and just where we're going and raising our vibration, and I just love to really get into ethereal talks and things like that. Just talking to people and interacting is one of my favorite things to do.
You love connecting with people.
Yes.
I know, you do. It's a beautiful thing. All right, Tamara.
Well, what makes me happy is, like everybody else, there's a million things I could say, but I'm going to narrow it down to one thing that it's because of the time of my life right now. The most important things are my family. I have a beautiful little 5.5-year-old daughter that's sitting there winking at me, so if I'm winking, I don't have something in my eye. It's my little daughter. And, my husband's sitting here, my best parts of my life, and I appreciate every day the newness. having children in your 40s, in your mid-40s, is way different than it was when I had them in my 20s, because this is my second set of children. And what I can say is that I appreciate them so much more because my maturity level and watching the world through their eyes, I giggle. Sometimes it's just hilarious because they're so innocent. So what I love every day is watching them watch the world and have them recognize something new. And that's really fun to me.
Wow, you guys all have a lot of fun. I think that most of my days, I actually lead most of the time quite a quiet life, and I take a lot of satisfaction and joy in that. I love the dog. We go out almost every day and meet other local people. I keep changing my locality, so that's always fun for me. And I know the names of all their dogs. I absolutely don't know the name of the people. That actually is really fun because I'm serving. It's a different thing that I do for a living, which I also have to say, I feel so, every day I have this feeling of such, I guess, luck, privilege, honor, that I can do something that's of the highest integrity. I don't have to compromise. I have compromised myself in the work world in years gone by. I remember I worked for a organic bulk company, which, by the way, isn't in my book. It's the one that isn't in my book. And the lady that ran it made me dip cotton in alcohol and wipe off the expiration dates. It didn't feel good. And, I did speak up, this isn't right, and la, 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 but that didn't matter. She wanted to make the money. I don't have to do stuff like that anymore. It is my own business, and it's a business of high integrity where I'm bringing incredible information to people who really want to hear it. It's like, how much better does it get than that? So, yeah, I'm a pretty happy gal.
All right. Well, we do have some questions from the audience now, and I, by the way, want to acknowledge all of you men here that want to know what makes women happy. I love when my husband says, "Whatever you want, honey." I love that. So I honor all of you men who are here, really wanting to know what makes us tick, what the glue is that keeps us happy, and you want to participate. So thank you for being here, gentlemen. All right, so the first question that we have from our audience. Can you talk about a natural raw foods approach to menopause? And I'm not going to have every single person answer it, but I just want to have one or two who feels that they have an approach that is really worthwhile. Who wants to say
Why
something?
is everybody looking at me?
You think they are?
Every head in the room and on this panel just turned to me.
Well, wait a minute. I'm over 60.
I know, but they didn't look at you.
No,
You
because
looked at
I'm not part of this. I'm not part of this. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I mean, first of all, some people just completely sail through it. I say people because I don't want to be sexist. But if you are a woman who is having specific problems, and you're probably the same person who had problems when you began, you were 12 or 13 or, other times, it's a really good time to be high raw because the problems of the hormonal, rockiness is also exacerbated by any kind of toxicity you have in your body. And a lot of people have found that when they go 100% raw, you do some cleansing, juice fasting, that kind of thing, juice feasting, that even though the exact problem hasn't been addressed, the body can deal with it better because it isn't dealing with all this other stuff like a sluggish liver and things like that. So that would be my biggest suggestion. Certainly there are hormonal approaches that I'm not prepared to really get into off the top of my head at this moment.
One of the things that can affect you and affect your cycle or how you feel, though, is how much sugar that you're taking in, and it doesn't matter whether it comes by way of fruit or agave sweetener. Sugar is sugar no matter how you look at it, and that will highly affect whether you have hot flashes or you don't. Also how your digestion is working. So if you're eating foods that are making your digestion sluggish, comes right back to the toxicity that Noemi is speaking about. Those things will create hot flashes in and of themselves.
And I'd also like to mention Maca Root powder. I've really been playing with that a lot lately and noticing that when I'm on my cycle, when I take it, if I have any kind of cramping whatsoever, I take it and it immediately goes away. And also my cycle is shorter and just feels lighter and in general better using the Maca Root powder, which you can find pretty readily now.
I also noticed when I was going through menopause that the less fat I ate, the better. And I didn't have hot flashes at night when I didn't eat fat later in the day. And so even though I'm the moderator, I just had to say that.
And as far as menopause, I haven't quite reached it yet, but as far as, people say menopause is pausing for men, and menstruation is the day of the month, or the 3 or 4 days, when you get to get the men in your life straight. And the good news is that you're already feeling good if you try this approach, and that is the moment that the cycle starts, I like to start fasting. And I fast through the whole time, and it only usually lasts 2 days because I just do a water fast, and sometimes I do a dry fast for the first 24 hours, and I feel so good. It's not that I don't have cramps, it's that it's way beyond not cramps. It's like, it's the best time of the whole month almost because I have so much energy because I don't put anything into my mouth. And then I take that first day and I just rest on that day. And I am so charged up the rest of the month because of that. And also fasting several times a month for 1 day a week according to the new and the full moon. It goes with our tidal cycles. And as a general tonic for menopause, it's my understanding that it's very effectual to just like be very sensitive with our, if we see the menopausal symptoms coming on, before they get out of control, to fast right then and to stop, slow down. So meditation, rest, fasting, and being in touch with our body.
That's good advice for any time of life, isn't it? Whenever you're having any challenges in your life. Good. Okay, here's the next question then. Have any of you ladies experienced a time in your life where after giving or contributing for some time, have you taken a dedicated amount of time mainly to focus on yourself as a way of regeneration? Can we start with you, or do you want to answer that, since you didn't answer the others?
Okay, well, I'm feeling that when I stopped working at a regular job in 1989, my life became my own. Like our other panelists, I homeschooled my daughter and really just said, even in the regular life, as opposed to a sabbatical, that I just took charge of my life. I was concerned that I couldn't make enough money as a freelance writer, and I called a friend in Chicago and told her the relatively small amount of money I needed to make at that time, living in the Midwest and living pretty simply. She said, "Oh, you can make twice that much." So I really believe that from that day on, I've lived by my own rules and really life on life's terms, but with a lot of input from me. It's a great way to live.
Mm-hmm. Sherry?
And anybody else want to?
This actually came up in the last question and with a happy sage advice, but it also comes over into this question, and that is, in this, hurried life we lead, and I know that a lot of people have regular 9-to-5 jobs, so it's not as easy. Another wonderful thing, I may work endless hours, but it's the endless hours I choose. Could be midnight. But I think people forget to give themselves little gifts like stopping, resting, laying down and watching Oprah maybe, and then getting up and working again, making a special meal instead of chugging down just anything. It's like, for me, how it works for me, instead of I don't often take a big, long period of time to rest and rejuvenate, but I take many things very often throughout the day. I like pop culture, for example, so I might want to, catch part of the Today Show, because I get a kick out of it. Things like that. And I'll be in the middle of work and suddenly I just put the pen down and I'll go, whatever, play with the dog. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour. And, that rejuvenates me and keeps me going. And it's like, I really think that people, even when they can do it, don't do it. It's so important. Even just get up and leave your desk for 10 minutes, walk outside and breathe the air. Take your shoes off and walk in the grass, that kind of thing. Sounds silly, but, if you can give yourself little gifts like that, it's a mini rejuvenation, I guess. Take care of yourself is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's good advice. Okay, let's move on then. We have, how do you deal with hormones and or low thyroid? So hormones imbalances, I'm guessing that that's what this means. How do you deal with hormone imbalances and or low thyroid? Anybody have experience with that?
Not really.
Okay.
When I'm finished dealing with it, I'll let you know how I did it.
All right. Well, go ahead.
Well, I'll just put in a word for bioidentical hormones. I didn't speak up on the menopause question because I thought that there were people here wiser than I, and I did menopause before I was raw. But I must say that a tiny amount of the bioidentical hormones every day, it feels fabulous to me. I've been doing it for a few years, got me through menopause without symptoms, and today it still feels good. You can ask me next year if that's still what I'm doing then. But I would just say if it's really a problem, and it can be really a problem, and so often, and I've found this even pre-raw, just with vegans and this sort of thing, there's so much guilt, you know, oh my gosh, what if your kid starts menstruating at 12 instead of 14? What did you do wrong? You know, you've been sneaking your kid into McDonald's. Same thing with menopause. You're not supposed to have any symptoms. We're the natural people. Well, you know what? Sometimes we do. And so if you need to look into a little bit more and take that route, it's certainly out there. The research, as I understand it, there's going to be a PBS special with Gary Null coming up this winter where he brought together something like 14 holistic doctors, including Dr. Joel Fuhrman, that some of you know because he's high raw, talking about this. And their basic consensus was if the hormones are making you nuts and causing you to lose quality of life, by all means look into bioidentical hormones. These are prescribed by a medical doctor and filled by a compounding pharmacist. This is the kind of hormone that the body makes. They're not indicted in the extra breast cancer, heart disease, and all these things that the horse urine and synthetic hormones are. So it is an option that's out there.
Just to add my 2 cents, I've been using them for 2 years. I started later than I probably might have chosen to. I had to be kind of sure about it. And I agree with what Victoria's saying. I do think it's contributed to my feeling of, you know, being a lot younger than my actual years.
Interesting. Thank you.
And lastly, vigorous daily exercise for overcoming the hormonal imbalances has provided hundreds of people I personally know with great strides in balancing that out without medication.
Good. Okay, here's another question from our audience. And this is a little bit different. It doesn't have anything to do with food, probably. Well, but I don't know. Maybe it could. How do you deal with upsets with your significant other? Well, chocolate licking sauce isn't a bad idea. Did she really say that?
What did you say?
Okay.
She's turning red.
I thought I was just here with my gal pals. Okay. Who wants to tackle that? Elena.
I'm not in a relationship at the moment, but I can say that when I have been in one, I think appreciating. I notice that when I'm appreciating my partner for what he's offering, and also looking, what I've learned from nonviolent communication is looking for what their way of showing love, or what, like if they're doing something that's not working for me, to say, oh, well, they're doing this thing because they're trying to show love in this way, and like trying to not make them be like me, but more finding who they are and being in their shoes. And I've really learned a lot about that in the last 6 months, I have to say, about being in someone's shoes, not knowing really, unless you really can put yourself in their place, of what their motivation is and why they're doing what they're doing. So that seems to help me in all relationships, trying to just feel what that other person might be needing or why they're communicating in this way.
That's really good.
Yeah. Communication.
Yeah.
It's just communicating instead of yelling or being angry or exchanging words about something that happened in the past. Sitting down to communicate, saying what your needs are, what's wrong, how you're feeling, and not try to tell them how they're feeling, because you really don't know how they feel. And that's the projection that often, if you have miscommunication, it's because you're projecting what you think somebody else feels. So it's just really good communication and being caring.
There's about 20 beloveds in my life right now. And about half men, half women. They're all friends. It's like celibate beloveds. But I check in with almost every one of them every day on the phone, and we have such splendid terms of endearment. Hi, beloved. How are you? These are people who work with me. Every conversation, I swear, ends with, I love you, hi darling, how are you? Can you imagine these are your working associates? And there's nothing like beyond the, they're not trying to do anything like mischievous. We just love each other, and we have so much respect for each other that the chance of us, because we have this intimacy, and because everybody at Raw Spirit, like we share our meals together, people are living together, a lot of them are in the neighborhood, they're all moving into the same neighborhood now, and it's so interesting because we're all dedicated to honest, clear communication that I can't actually remember the time that we had a disagreement. It's really interesting, but it so works because people massage each other's shoulders. We had this thing where we check in with each other all day long, and not like Cafe Gratitude, like on schedule, but we just check in and say, how can I help you? And there's just this feeling of, putting bites of food in each other's mouth, and there's just this feeling of communion that is so sweet. And then I take that with me everywhere I go, and then our family just keeps expanding, and there's like untold numbers of us who are out there, and I'm sure you're among them. So it's when we have the sweetness as our foundation, it's really difficult to other than get along in a really lovely way.
Thank you, Happy. Okay, here's another question. This is going to be an interesting one. What is in your bathroom cabinet?
Ooh. I'll take that one. I love that question. They used to do something in the back of Veg News magazine where they'd look in people's refrigerators. I always wanted to be picked for that. Never was. Okay, bathroom cabinets. I love Dr. Hauschka cleansing milk. It's a little bit pricey. I always ask for it for Christmas and my birthday, and 2 bottles see me through the year. Everything is packaged in glass except the sunblock that, can't be. So that Dr. Hauschka cleansing milk. Dr. Hauschka deodorant, also in glass, no aluminum, no antiperspirant stuff, but it just smells so good. There's something in these products that's beyond just natural. It's extra. It's just something that is, I think, uplifting to the soul. I've also been using pure coconut oil, coconut butter, depending on the temperature in the bathroom, for nighttime moisturizer and also for taking off eye makeup and that kind of thing. I love anything that smells like coconut, so that's a really good thing. And I have a tongue scraper. I know the Ayurvedics and some other people really encourage, as a detoxification help, to scrape your tongue in the morning, that little sweater that forms in Ayurveda. They call that ama. It's metabolic debris. And not only is it a great way to ensure fresh breath through the day, but it really it gets some of this toxins that your body's been releasing through the night out before you start the day. And I'll stop at 3.
Okay. All right. Any of you ladies over here?
I would love to
4.
share.
Okay.
One of my biggest beauty routines that I've been doing since I went raw is skin brushing. And a lot of you have probably gotten my DVD or heard me talk about it numerous times because I get so excited about it. I do it every morning, well, almost every morning. I have a whole routine of brushing my entire body with a dry skin brush. It removes any dead skin, and you can see it when you first start. You'll see skin flying, literally white skin flying. And then I had eczema really bad, and I know a big part of it is because I changed my diet, but also I did find my skin improved greatly when I started helping it to release the toxins by body brushing. My other favorite thing is apple cider vinegar. What I have with me as my soap is apple cider vinegar with rose essential oil in it. And it's diluted with water. And I use that as a deodorant. I use that just for general body washing. I've also just read in the Bragg's apple cider vinegar book that if you use a loofah or you get a massage with apple cider vinegar, it helps with cellulite. So that's another new exciting thing I learned. I use it as a face wash, kind of like as a toner. And then my lotion that I like is, I love the Eminence line. It's an organic line, very high quality. When you're looking at products, you want to make sure it's products that you would be able to put on your skin that you're okay with it absorbing, like essential oils and natural products and not any weird preservatives. So Eminence is an amazing line, and I also love Hauschka. I love their mascara. It's got rose oil in it. It's fantastic. And Hauschka is the only lip thing I can put on that doesn't make my lips dry and crack. Everything else feels like addicting. And I like the Hauschka line, so that's
Thank you.
a couple things.
I love basic, plain, old coconut oil and olive oil for my skin. That's two of the things that I like. If I'm just going to put it on my body, because both of those things, what you put on your skin is absorbed. So using just pure quality things. If I'm going to use a face cream or anything, we have a line of face creams that we make, and they were really formulated more for myself than anybody else because my skin is so extremely sensitive. I don't like to put much on me. So we have that. When it comes to like an exfoliating, it would be like skin brushing or using some oatmeal and a little bit of some cornmeal or something like that that's real ground up fine, and just using things that are natural right out of my cupboard. So if my bathroom cupboard is pretty bare, I go to the kitchen cupboard.
I have a lot of the same things. I always have coconut oil, and I have a beeswax mixture that a friend of mine makes up. It's not for commercial use. I have really dry skin, and so I'm always putting stuff on it. Like when I'm home, I don't wear any makeup. And I always have something on it that's sort of maybe a lot of people would consider greasy, but it's comforting to me. I use Aubrey Skin Cleanser. I also have the E3 Live products. There's 2 creams, a lighter cream and a heavier cream, and an exfoliant. And I also, I don't skin brush every day anymore, but I still remember to skin brush several times a week. And it's, if you're not skin brushing, you need to go out and get yourself a natural skin brush and try it. It's so simple, and it's an amazing thing to do. Probably life-saving in some cases.
I use.
Do you have a medicine cabinet?
Well, I'm never home. I've been on the road since October. But what I do use is the Nature's Supermarket. So I take most of my showers outside. So the waterfall is my primary medicine cabinet. And then about once a week I'll come across a really great pool of mud, like bentonite clay, and whoever I'm with will just slather our bodies all over and our faces with and then we just like wait till we dry out like lizards and can barely walk and can't smile, and then swim it off. And then another thing I've discovered lately, which possibly controversial but not really, is 100 proof vodka. Is somebody this winter introduced me to putting vodka on a washcloth and scrubbing, and that is really the only thing in my medicine cabinet.
What does that do?
It's like exfoliating with, but I'm not really into the dry brushing for some reason. I find it a little bit unnerving. So to use the alcohol, it's like wet brushing, and you scrub it off, all the skin and the soil. And if you're in an area where you can't take a shower, then this is a perfect traveler's tool.
So how can you travel with an open bottle of vodka?
I always use a lid.
Oh, well. Right. Okay. All right. Why didn't I think of that? Okay. All right. Okay. So we have another question. Moving along. What do you suggest to improve digestion?
Well, I'll take that because I also forgot that there's a sheet going around that you can sign up if you'd like, and I will send you my 25 favorite youtheners. So I just need a very legible email address, and on the far right side of that sheet, if you're also interested in getting my daily blog called A Charmed Life, you can just say yes over there. Anyway, digestion, I have starting my day with kombucha. I always used to drink tea and go to Starbucks and have chai tea, so it makes sense that something tea-like, but those live enzymes in the kombucha on an empty stomach made a huge difference.
Okay. Elena?
I have something new that I've been doing that I'm really loving. It's the same thing I just talked about. And not only do I put apple cider vinegar on my skin, but I also ingest it. And I know some people it works for and some people it doesn't, but I have been reading a lot on the internet, and I have the Bragg's apple cider vinegar book. And I've always had a problem with bloating. It's just been a weird thing with my digestion since I was a child. And the apple cider vinegar, I do 2 tablespoons mixed with water and a little baking soda, too, in there. It sounds weird, but it actually tastes like a soda. And I'm noticing that I've only been doing it for a little while because I was doing a liver flush, which is amazing. And that actually helped with my digestion hugely, is the liver flush. Every time I do a liver flush, my digestion improves like tenfold. But the apple cider vinegar for me, I think it's the malic acid or whatever's happening in there is helping to really help my digestion a lot.
And you do that on an empty stomach.
I do it on an empty stomach, and a lot of people that have any kind of acid reflux, I had one of the students that came to my 21-day cleanse, she said she had tried everything, and I suggested that to her, and she came back the next week and said, nothing has helped, the doctors have never been able to help, and my acid reflux is gone. So, yeah. Hi.
Anybody else over here want to?
Probiotics and
Probiotics.
enzymes. Using probiotics to bring in good flora into your colon. Also, fermented foods like a sauerkraut. There's a number of different, it doesn't have to be sauerkraut, there's a number of different fermented things that you can make. There's kefir. But fermented foods are going to bring in a good flora for the colon part, the upper part of your stomach where digestion of the food needs to occur, digestive enzymes. It's really important to remember, and Victoris will talk to you about that in his lectures, that the one thing that even though that we're eating raw, we still need to have enzymes, because our body cannot produce enough enzymes even eating raw, because raw foods, if we're picking it straight out of a garden, we're eating it right away, all of its enzymatic value is still intact. But if you're getting it from a store, it's 4 or 5 days later, it still doesn't have the same enzyme value that it had. So additional enzymes every time you eat are very important.
Ditto on a lot of what everyone said. I'll try to just throw in my additions. Lots of times, things have happened to you kind of even before your memory. For example, maybe you were ill as an infant and had, weeks of antibiotics, and you don't know that, and you've spent, your whole life with problematic digestion. That's where, long-term usage of probiotics would come in. That replaces the good flora in your gut with the bad that's overtaken it because it's been overrun by antibiotics. Or say you had acne when you were a kid, and it's amazing how many people walk around with this issue and have no idea how simple it is to remedy it. Also enzymes, and I think maybe especially people who are relatively new to raw, it might feel counterintuitive to be taking enzymes simultaneously. A lot of people do, and a lot of people I take some very, very high dosage enzymes therapeutically. In other words, I don't take them with my food. The product I particularly like is called Wobenzyme N. Anytime I've ever tried a product that's like Wobenzyme N, it hasn't worked for me, and that's good for any kind of inflammation. So those are just easy fixes, and unfortunately, most medical personnel aren't as knowledgeable as perhaps we would like about. People treat you for, they don't understand that you just aren't creating enough acid, and they're giving Pepsid and things like that, which further reduce acid, but you really need the acid. And it's really kind of easier to go to alternative, people who are well steeped in alternative. I think you'll get a more rapid recovery on your digestive issues. The medical community is really not, in my humble, complete lack of knowledge, ignorant opinion, I don't personally feel that the doctors I've personally met, not every doctor on all of Earth, of course, is handling digestive issues as well as the alternative people are. Hope I was really clear on that.
Yes, we got that that's just your opinion.
Just my personal experience and opinion, yes.
But if your digestion and your colon are working properly, your energy levels are out the roof. It's when they're not working is when you feel tired. Mm-hmm. You feel sluggish. So if you feel like you need to lay down after you ate, it's because you ate the wrong food and your body's working very hard to digest it. So give it some enzymes. And as Noemi said, for cleansing, you can take them before you eat, so they break down the food that you have. You take them in between meals on an empty stomach, and they help cleanse tissues. So they're very good all the way around.
Right.
Can I just make one more comment on that, too, is proper food combining. When you come to an expo like this, of course you're trying everything. It's delicious. It's wonderful. When you're at home, you want to eat simply, maybe even mono-eat some things. Don't combine more than 2 fats in a meal. Just try and keep it simpler, and I found that really helps with my digestion as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, actually, our time is up now. I thank you all so much for your questions. I want to thank Noemi Shannon, Tamara Campbell, Elena Love, Victoria Moran, and happy Heavenly ASA. And from myself, Sherry Soria, thank you all for joining us. Thank you.